There's been a lot of speculation recently about Diego Forlan. Can you give us the club position on him?
Yeah, he's under contract to Internacional of Brazil, so we're not gonna talk at all about a player that's under contract to another team. So we don't really have a lot to say about it.
Can you make an offer to another club if he's under contract?
Sure.
So you can make offers, you just can't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I don't think it's a good policy to talk about deals that are in progress. It can't do anything to help the deal, and it also, it can make you look pretty dumb if the deal doesn't happen. So we don't talk about offers we've made, and we definitely don't talk publicly about players who are under contract to another team. To me, it's a form of tampering. And even though it's done frequently in the rest of the world, I don't think it's appropriate. So,
my sense was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the club's philosophy was to maybe go after some talented younger players that you could build up and perhaps later earn something from their improvement.
That is still a part of our philosophy, for sure. I mean, look at Matías Laba. And we have another young forward that we continue to aggressively pursue. But that won't be the only thing we do, because we do, and it's pretty clear from watching this group, we've got a lot of good young talent on our team, but we need some players who've been through some wars, and players who've won things, and players who understand what it takes to win, to lead those young players. So, and just the one thing I want to correct. We want to sign players who are appreciating assets. We don't necessarily want to sign them so that we can sell them and make money. That's not the business we're in. We want to be in the business of winning. But obviously, part of that includes when you sign players that are younger, they do increase in value. And there may come a time where we end up selling a player that we've bought. But that's not why we're interested in younger players. We're interested in younger players so we can build a group that can stay together for 5 or 6 years.
Do you feel that before you bring in an experienced player, an experienced marquee name, that you have to get the foundation of the team first, surround him with the right players?
I think ideally you certainly want to do that. I do think we have the beginnings of a very good foundation. It starts with Joe Bendick. I think we have some good young players in the back. We have some good young players in the midfield. And we've got some quality on our team that we can keep together. Sometimes opportunities come along that you can't always time everything exactly the way you'd like. So there are times when certain situations arise that you have to try to take advantage of, and it may not fit perfectly into your timetable.
Can you characterize what state of the salary cap was when you took over? Because it seems like
disastrous. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. It was in a really, really tough state. And, some of the moves that we've made, over time, we might not have, under ordinary circumstances, they might not have been the moves we would have made. But to some extent, we were forced into doing certain things to give ourselves a chance to acquire flexibility, because we didn't have any. We were significantly over the cap and significantly under the number of players on our roster when I got here. So we had to do some things, and basically the house was on fire, and we had to figure out some ways to try to put the fire out, at least short term. And we're still struggling with some of those. We have some contracts that certainly are not contracts we would have done. We just need to deal with them. We need to work around them. And unfortunately, sometimes that requires us to make certain moves which, might not, on the outside, might not make a lot of sense. But when you see our situation and what we're trying to accomplish for the long term, some of these moves have to be made.
What's the goal for the summer transfer this window?
We want to add attacking quality generally, right? So we'd like to add an established player and a young player. Probably in the kind of goal-scoring positions. But we also will be looking to add at least one additional midfielder, probably a wide player who can assist us in the attack, not necessarily be relied on for goals, but more a guy that can help create goals. So we hope to add at least 3 players. We'd like to add also, and we're looking at adding a possible younger wide defender who can assist us there, who would be part of the group that we would hope to keep together for 5 or 6 years. We think that we go into next year, when we took over the team, I think we had 16 or 17 guaranteed contracts. We will go into next year, depending on what we do in this summer transfer window, we'll probably only have 4 or 5 guaranteed contracts for 2014. Now, we have a lot more players that we're going to want to keep. So we think we'll end up with a core group of 15, 16 guys, including those guarantees, who we hope to be part of TFC and the backbone of TFC for, 5 or 6 years to come. And that's exactly the situation that you want to be in. So players like Joe Bendick, players like Gale, players like Donil, who are very young. They're just beginning their professional careers, but they're getting really important minutes now. And if they can be part of our group, if we can be standing here 5 years from now talking about those guys still being part of our team, we'll probably have won some trophies in that interim period.
Is it possible to kind of explain to the layman what constitutes a guaranteed contract? Are some players you don't have to offer them?
Well, our league changed dramatically with the last collective bargaining agreement. In the earlier years of the league, the vast majority of contracts were what were called semi-guaranteed. So for the first half of the year, they wouldn't be guaranteed. They would only become guaranteed after June 30th. And you could extend them as semi-guaranteed contracts on a month-to-month basis past June 30th. Now, any player who's been in the league more than, I believe it's 4 years, is automatically guaranteed. Any contract they sign is guaranteed. And the players who have, you can only extend one semi-guaranteed contract past June 30th, and you can only extend it for a month. So it's far more difficult now. And that's one of the reasons you don't see as much movement in our league as you used to. You get to this time of the year, and a lot of teams are really locked in. They don't have any way to make room to acquire players. It's very challenging. And sometimes you see trades that, like I said, you might scratch your head a little and say, why'd they do that? But a lot of times it's simply to make a little bit of room. It's like those old, those toys you had when you were a kid with one square missing, and you had to put the letters in order, making room with one square. It's very challenging now in our league.
You obviously had a big job to do when you took over this team, and you still do, but football is changeable. But do you find you sort of knocking your head against the wall when Eckersley goes down for as long with a twice aggravated hamstring from a goal celebration? Poor Danny Koeverman keeps on aggravating in his injuries in his return. There seems to have been some unfortunate missteps. Yeah,
look, injuries are part of it, and it's an incredible frustration. There's not a lot you can do about it. You can, we all yell at the trainer. Doesn't seem to do any good. He's kind of he's the messenger. He's the guy that gets shot every time he has to give us the bad news. We might have, perhaps handled Richard a little bit better coming back. I think we all learned something from that. Players, especially younger players like Richard, their enthusiasm sometimes gets the better of them, and we probably rushed Richard back a little bit, or allowed him to rush himself back a little bit. So I think we learned something from that one. Danny's, he's 35 years old. He's returning from a year off, and they had a tough training day the day he got injured. But you have to. That happens to everybody. Every team has injuries, and we haven't had it as bad as some teams. So it's frustrating, but we'd like to build up enough depth that we can soldier through those kinds of things in the future. And I think that we're moving in that direction. The loss of Richard meant that, Ryan Richter got tremendous amount of playing time that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So we hope that in the long run that will have real value for us.
You've got a couple of backups on big ticket salaries. Is really a trade the only option you have to lessen that salary load?
Yeah. Trade or wait, just waiting through the season. There's not a lot of ways out of that. Once you've got a guaranteed contract with a player, there's not a lot of ways out.
Are Danny and Stefan both off the books next year?
Well, Danny's contract is up. Steph's got an option. We haven't made any decisions on either one of them. We haven't really talked to either one of them about this year. And so I don't even know what they're thinking. But we haven't made any decisions about what our position is there. Those are both guys who've been really loyal people to this team, and we want to make sure that we're loyal back to them.
And how are you feeling about where we are in the road right now? Do you think people perhaps from the outside undervalued the bumps along the road that you faced?
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not sure what people expected or didn't expect. I think at my first news conference, the one thing I promised is that we were going to be competitive in every single game, and we have been that. We've kind of been our own worst enemy in a lot of cases. And I think a lot of that is because of the relative youth of our team. Some of it's because of you can't have as many bad games in a row or as many bad years in a row as this club has had and not have some malaise set in and some attitude issues that affect the players. And, players they're people too, and they go on the field. And, when you go on the field and you've been accustomed to winning, then when times get tough in the game, you are confident you'll get through that. And I think our team probably went through a patch this year where they were kind of waiting for something bad to happen late in games. They, instead of saying, hey, we've been down this road before, we're going to come out of it fine with a win, they're saying, oh, man, we've been through this before, and what's going to happen bad? And unfortunately, that did happen a lot of times. So I think our players have, they're fighting through that now. They're trying to find a way to get themselves through those tough times. It doesn't mean anything, but it's in terms of my job, trying to assess how we're making progress and how we're going to look to the future. I do pay attention to the fact that, had we hung on in the last minutes of more games, we could be right in the middle of the playoff race right now. It's very frustrating. I know the fans don't want to hear about that, and I'm not making any excuses. I'm just saying that it is, to me, it's a sign of some progress. We need to now put the people on the field that can get through those moments, and I think we'll add some important pieces to that end in the next few weeks.
You've been in this league a long time. Do you think this season, the playoffs, realistic?
Yeah, I do. It's a long shot. I mean, we've dug ourselves a deep hole, but look at the streak that Real Salt Lake has been on recently. Look at the streak that Portland was on before they lost in Columbus. You can put a streak together like that, and you can pick up a lot of points very fast. We still have a lot of games. Frankly, our chances are improved by the fact that we've got more games in our conference than out of our conference. This is one of the values of not playing a balanced schedule. We get to play a lot of 6-point games. And, we're confident that if we can get the right pieces on the field, that we can still make a run at the playoffs. We want to be in the conversation in the fall. It's a long shot. We don't discount that. And we know the other teams in front of us want to make the playoffs at least as badly as we do. So, but we're not out of the playoffs yet. It's not over with.
Kevin, the 3 to 4 players that you were talking about bringing this summer, are they from outside of MLS, inside MLS, a combination?
When I made that reference, those were mostly players that were from outside of MLS. There may be a trade within the league or two, but I'm talking about 3 or 4 players that will come to us from outside the league.
And do you have because you talked about the cap struggles, do you have the cap room and the allocation?
Well, we think we can make the room. And that was, part of I think Ryan tried to explain this week that, the movement of Louis and what we got for Louis, that probably allows us to add, one or two players that we think will start for us. So that was a tough decision for us to make because we all think the world of Louis as a player and as a person. He's just a wonderful young man. But DC really wanted him badly. Ben Olsen has been talking about him since he came into the league, and we thought it was the best thing for us, and ultimately I think it'll be the best thing for Louis.
Is there a number limit you can get in allocation money in a trade?
No. There's a minimum. There's not a maximum.